We talked about your first two fights.
Here it comes.
You're a UCC champ at the time.
Yeah.
So so you won the belt from Dave?
Mm-mm.
It was in the tournament?
No, I went. How did I win that? I lost to David in the second one, and then I fought. They changed the weight classes a bit, so I went down in weight, and I ended up against. I had a couple fights at a lower weight, Tadarius Thomas. Then and then I beat for the belt. I beat a guy named Phil Hughes. And that would have been, they called it lightweight then, but it was it's welterweight now, because back then there was only.
I was gonna say they only had a couple weight classes.
They only had 3 weight classes at first, right? It was 170 to like 1 to 200.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, that's kind of how it was. So I beat a guy named Phil Hughes for the title. I defended it once, and then after that, I ran into a fella named his name was George.
a little known martial artist.
Yeah, have a look. There's 9 million views on YouTube. I am using my head as a fucking basketball.
That's gotta be insane though. You came across arguably the greatest mixed martial artist of all time.
Like when I've only watched that fight a couple times because it was just me literally just getting my shit pushed in. And, but like, and at the time I lost my belt and my world was over. Cause I was like, that's all I ever had, the only thing I ever really accomplished. And it was like a big deal, especially like, and for our team and for where I lived, and like, that was it, right? I was our guy. And then that was taken from me, and I went into like a spiral, because like that, to me, that was my identity. And then like, you got over it in time, and it was like, in the big picture, that was the best fight to ever happen to me, because I became more disciplined and went down to 155, and then I ended up in Japan, and which opened up into like doors for everyone to compete, right? So like, I knew, I remember talking to my buddy Bruiser afterwards, because like I remember George hit me with a takedown in that, and he sat me on my ass, and I actually remember like saying out loud in the ring, I'm like, shit, like I didn't even think he was gonna wrestle me. I thought we were kickboxing. Right.
You were the judo guy.
Yeah. And he just fucking throttled me. And I remember him grabbing on me, and I was like, holy shit, this kid's strong. And then he just smashed me at like one moment of brilliance where I escaped the mount, got to my feet, and then he just picked me up and threw me on the floor again anyway. And that was the beginning of the end. He was on top of me, like he was even side. He was just smashing me. You know, I didn't even know where I was anymore. And by the end, I knew I couldn't get out of the mount. The first mount escape, I just kind of gave up my back and forced to scramble because I couldn't get out. So I was like, if he chokes me, he chokes me. So everything, I'll just scramble, run for it. And I got out. And then he took me down and did it again. Same pass, same everything. Still to the same pass he does to this day. And then he got the mount, and I was just seeing like triple, because I was concussed. And I kind of was like in a position where I'm just kind of like, take my arm, I guess. You know what I mean? And I'm like, then I'll have another opportunity for a scramble, right? Mm-hmm. But I was like 3 steps behind that point. He just turned it on, and that was it, right? And but again, like that was the best thing to ever happen to me. Right. I'm grateful that, man, I can legitimately say I fought the best fighter of all time. Didn't know it at the time. Right. Like I was the champ. I was the favorite, whatever else, but I'm glad it played out the way it did. You know, I'm part of that guy's legacy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it put me on a path that made me a better person, and opened tons of doors and opportunity for myself and my teammates. Like, had I not lost to George, I wouldn't end up in Shudo. If I didn't have in Shudo, I wouldn't have gone to Japan. If I didn't go to Japan, Antonio wouldn't have gone to the UFC. You know what I mean? Like, it was all supposed to kind of go like that. Like George being pissed at me enabled me to see the world. That's kind of, so I never look back at that fight with anything but like good thoughts, man, like pride. Like it was supposed to go down like that. And I've said this a million times, man. Because everyone's like, oh, you'll get him next time. Like, no, man, I fight that guy 100 times. He's going to beat me up 100 times. It's a hard thing for people to accept that there's just people better at shit than you. And that guy's better at fighting than I am.
I mean, he's better at fighting than every person in the world.
Right.
Like,
I know, but people have a hard time swallowing their pride and make excuses and this and that. And I'm sure I did too. But like, yeah, I'm like, I could have perfect training, right? Everything go perfect, weight cut perfect, diet perfect, everything perfect. I'm going to lose because he's just better. Right. And people have a hard time saying that about anything. Oh, you lost this game of Scrabble because this is like, no, that motherfucker's smarter than you. That's it. Right. Like sometimes people are just better. Right.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? The perfect weight cut, maybe.
No, like,
No, that I'm just Jordan. Like it. There's a very, very strong argument for pound, he is the greatest martial artist of all time.
Yeah, and everyone, and there is guys that are like up, the Usmans and all these guys, Demetrius Johnson, like these guys, but George is the guy that laid the blueprint on how to be like a proper mixed martial artist. Like you knew what George was going to do, but he was going to take you down and punch you out. And if you, right. And then, or you knew he was going to try to take you down. Right. You just never knew which was coming. If you were defending the takedown, he'd punch you in the head. And if you're defending the punches, he'd take you down. You knew what he was going to do. He's just so good at everything and so strong and just intelligent in his approach and his training. He laid that blueprint out for everyone else to get involved in the sport and be great. Right now, the sport attracts stud athletes. Guys are going to picking wrestling and going to like schools based on wrestling so that they can do MMA when they're done their collegiate career. Yes. Right. So
as opposed to just being a wrestling guy who's, knows how to throw a couple punches.
Yeah. Right. Like people are basing their lives around, right?
The one thing I'll always remember about George is right after he lost the first time to Matt Hughes.
Yeah.
Remember he came and did that jiu-jitsu tournament.
Yeah. I was in that and I had to pull out. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And he had nothing to gain. He was a major star at the time. He just fought for the belt, and he came and did a tournament with, I think Rodrigo was in it. There was just some stud jiu-jitsu guys, and he was competing against them.
Yeah,
and he had nothing to gain, and he got caught in the armbar and wanted to improve his jiu-jitsu.
He just wanted to get better. Yeah,
insane. That's when you fought him. He had a couple fights. Like, did you know this guy was on? Obviously, you knew he was a good fighter and everything. I know he'd fought in Menjivar.
He had a great fight with Menjivar, who was another stud, and then
another Canadian, legend.
But he went to UFC as well. But I think he had because Montreal was a different planet when it came to the MMA. Like they were having all sorts of like different smokers and in-houses and MMA type stuff that we didn't have here. So they were, they were a little bit ahead of us. So who knows how many matchups he actually had before. He could have had one. He could have had 5. I don't know, because it wasn't documented. Like as far as professional, like none. But I don't know experience wise what else he was up to, right? But like, so who knows? But I had 200 judo and jiu-jitsu matches. It didn't help me. So, So.